Hello world of YouTube, and welcome to
Doomsday.
That's right, Victor Vaughn, the metal face himself, MF Doom, one of the best rappers ever, a huge influence to me if you're a longtime viewer of the channel, somebody that I've written a couple of songs about, and I think is an interesting figurehead in hip-hop, or was an interesting figurehead in hip-hop. He passed away a couple of years ago on Halloween, even if it was not revealed until a couple of months later, and to pay tribute to an artist that I love and enjoy the collective body of work of, I'm going to be ranking said collective body of work today from worst to best. Now, when talking about MF Doom in particular, unlike artists like A$AP Rock, I will not be separating certain collaborative records from his solo body of work.
I'm going to be talking about the 12 essential pieces of Doom's prolific discography.
A lot of his solo work will obviously be talked about, your Food, your Operation Doomsdays, even his other moniker projects like Vaudeville Villain and Take Me to Your Leader will be in this ranking. But I'm also going to be talking about his other collaborative projects, unlike what I did with a lot of A$AP Rock. I mean, I'm going to be talking about your Mad Villainies, obviously. I'm going to be talking about your Mouse and the Mask. That's why I put Danger Mouse and Black Thought in the background. I'm also going to be talking about his newer collaborative projects like JJ Doom and Neruvium Doom. I'm going to talk about the two Czarface projects that MF Doom pulled together with those two, and rank the discography from worst to best. Now, while a lot of these collaborations also wrought out stuff like tangential EPs, or there's some one-off single collaborations that Doom also did in his catalog, I'm not going to talk about that in vain of keeping it lean, straightforward, and to the point. So his bevy of instrumental metal face projects will also not be talked about in this particular video, but I do have an idea of something I want to do with a lot of those instrumental things, or with a handful of instrumental things of those instrumental ideas in the future. But like I said, today, 11 projects, worst to best. You know how this goes. Let's go ahead and get going.
Blazing greens, thumping big first CD, drinking on E, hoping pigs don't see. If they were psychic, they try to give them the electric chairs, getting hectic.
Now, Venomous Villain isn't a bad slice of his discography whatsoever, given it's at the bottom. That may shock a handful of people, because the ideas on this project are honestly pretty fucking solid. You know, the arpeggio synth intro of Back End fucking rocks, and I think Doom hits the pocket well on there, leads well into Fallback Titty Fat 2 with its own ambience. I think Doom on Vic is a decent idea. You know, it's good world building, which is what a lot of these projects did in pockets. I just think that it's like, I don't know, I want more from it, I guess. The idea of Doom as a persona on this project is kind of cool, and I'd like to see that a bit more. Dope Skill and Doper Skiller are cool. They're a cool 1-2 punch. I think Doper Skiller is better. I like the beat on there, and I think Cool Keith is great. I even really enjoy Ode to Road Rage. Like the sound, the ambience on there, and production on there is cool. The overall production twinge of this just feels the most dated slice of it in the worst way possible. Like, the album art kind of embodies what I feel like the production does sound like on here. And it's not a bad sound. I just think Doom doesn't gel with it in the way that he does on even JJ Doom, which I do put above this, because that album does have a sheen to it that I think Doom does work with to his own credit. But I don't know. I just don't spin this album. I really don't. For what I like about it, I can just spin Vaudeville Villain, an album I really love, and enjoy it, you know?
The volcano out of Iceland, he'll conquer and destroy the rap world like the white man. Learn from a pro as a mentor.
Now, this JJ Doom project, Keys to the Cuffs, is the only project I hadn't spun prior to prepping for this review. It's one that's always kind of sat in the back of my mind to check out eventually. It's a project I've seen a lot of meddling response to, and it's honestly kind of justified. I like a handful of the ideas on this album. I think some of the instrumental ideas are really, really cool. I love the synths on Bite the Thong. I think the overall atmosphere of GMO is fucking awesome. I also love Vibrian Sun Part 2. I like Vibrian Sun Part 1 on the redux of this album more. I think that Del, the Funky Homo Sapiens injection into that makes a lot of sense. And I honestly feel like there's a handful of this project that feels like it's throttling in some really good pockets that I love to see more of. You know, I love tracks like Governor, the 1-2 punch of Winter Blues and Steel Caps is incredible. My biggest problem with this album is that I wish Doom were on it a little more. Again, there was a redux of this project that was dropped really recently, actually, and has some other ideas thrown in the pot, and I kind of like some of those a bit more. So this would be an instance where, honestly, I feel like this is the most redactable MF Doom project in his whole catalog, and I like it, but I definitely wish there were more on both fronts. Don't be surprised if you see me making a video about this someday.
Right between the eyeballs, anybody can get it, so don't be too surprised, y'all. More dumber than a clown with a gun.
Now it's funny because unlike JJ Doom, Neruvian Doom isn't a place for Doom to be vocally front and center. Instead it's Bishop Nehru, but I feel like because it's Doom's production, which I do like a little more than the production on JJ Doom, is a bit more in line with the style of Doom. I feel like Bishop Nehru and Doom have a little more chemistry in like a rapper-producer sort of way. And when Doom crops up on here, it feels a little more apt, possibly because it is his production. Like, hell, the closing gambit from Caskets through Disastrous is actually really fucking solid. I think that Bishop's bars and his flows on here fit really well over Doom's production. And I feel like this embodies what could have been a good, like, passing the torch moment. Hell, the album cover kind of evokes that same imagery. And it's strange because I feel like Doom could have done this a million times over throughout the 2010s and had similarly consistent results if Doom just got with younger rappers, made beats for them, and collaborated them pretty intimately. I would have loved to have seen this because this is a good peer into that bridging of generations that I think Doom does so incredibly well. I think that it's a great point of curiosity if you're a Doom fan and you just haven't given a lot of his 2010s collaborative stuff a look. I think Neruvian Doom, while it is low on my ranking, is a really solid outing that is very much worth your time, even if it is a pocket project at its core.
I've known for 3 snowflakes like Tom Bonsley. Remember Charlie's Angels? They had to make some changes. 3 broads with burners, DJs could...
So spoilers, Super What's going to be the one right above this because, I mean, the 2010s era of Doom is really neat. It's a lot of cool, morbid curiosities if you're a fan of Doom. You know, JJ Doom is if you want to hear Doom do one last producer-centric collaborative experience with some great features on top of that. And Neruvian Doom is a fun passing the torch moment. But these two Czarface projects embody what I wish we got more from with Doom by and large. You know, I love that Inspectah Deck did what Ghostface never could, and that he got not one but 2 really cool collaborative projects with MF Doom. And I feel like Czarface meets Metalface's biggest pitfall is that it reaches the same lulls that Czarface meets Ghostface did. There's a cool instrumental palette to this. I like some of the darker instrumentals that coat this project. The keys on Badness of Madness, the organ on Forever People, evoke this villainous adjacent atmosphere. I just feel like they harnessed it better on Super What. I like the collaborations on here with, like, Open Mike Eagle, but I wish there were more of them on this project. I feel like the 3 of them, Czarface and Doom, have great chemistry, though. And again, it evokes that same desire that I wish Doom did more. I think Metal with Metal is a great weaving of the 2 worlds in the beginning. And I think Close Talker has a good planting moment that's paid off in Super What. I just kind of wish that some of the conceptual ideas felt a little more in line with Doom in the same way that they are on Super What a little more consistently. Maybe it's because Super What is far shorter than Czarface meets Metalface, so it feels more like a meeting of the minds like what Czarface meets Ghostface was, but part of what makes Super What just a little bit better is that homogenizing of both a little more closely. I still like Czarface meets Metalface. I feel like if you're a fan of East Coast hip-hop, or you've liked, again, what Doom does in his Golden Age material, this is a great point of interest eventually. If you want to see Doom consistently working with rappers that also embody a lot of his own conceptual ideas a little more on the nose.
Dirt weed, vanilla envelopes, tinfoil TV dinners. We're all beginners, touch soil in the winter. Stats box of fresh.
I think sadly enough, my biggest issue with Super What is that similarly to Czarface Metal Face, there's a lot of components that I enjoy, and again, I enjoy that homogenizing of Czarface and Doom sort of ideologies from an album construction perspective. I feel like their ideas just kind of gel a bit better on here, and it makes me wish that Doom were still around so that they could flesh this out even more. But I wish that there were more utilization of the features. I love that Dell comes in on Jason and the Zargonauts. I think it's cool that DMC comes in for the intro song, even if it's only for 4 fucking bars, but I do wish that there were more of him here, and I wish that there were more of a sort of world building with Super What in the way that this album feels like it's kind of trying to build to. I feel like, again, their chemistry feels just as palpable as it did on Czarface meets Metal Face. I think the instrumental palette on here is a little more consistent, honestly, and I think that it is obviously a tighter release because it's like a pocket project, but it's similarly to albums I've talked about in the listening log, an instance of a pocket project I wish had a bit more going on, honestly. I feel like I wish that there were more tracks here. I wish some ideas were maybe a little more extended. I like that there are some good planting and payoff moments, and I like some of the imagery on tracks like Mando, Calrissian. I love the payoff from Doom Unto Others from Close Talker. I feel like the spooky beat on So Strange is awesome as fuck. And I walked away from this project definitely liking it more than Czarface meets Metal Face, but similarly to that, it just left me wanting still something else from this collaboration. I feel like if you enjoy Czarface meets Metal Face, check this out. You'll probably like this more. If you're into projects like Mask and the Mouse as well, I would check into this project because I think it's got some cool ideas under the umbrella of Doom that I feel like comes together really amicably, even if it still ends up pretty in the middle of my ranking.
Hard rock, black rock-a-rons going barbers on. Curled up, begging laying on the canvas instead of in the ready position like praying man.
Now I know there's going to be some aspects of the Doom community and the Doom fan base that find this ranking way too low. There's a lot of classic Doom tracks in here and some classic collaborations by and large. I love Gazillionaire. I think Ballskin is some fun word spinning. I think that Lightworks is an incredible spin on a Dilla classic. I think the collaborations with Raekwon and Ghostface on Yes Sir and Angels respectively are fucking awesome. Even if I don't like the beat choice on Angels all that much, I feel like it does fit the overall production palette of this project. For as much as I love the atmosphere of Supervillains, the mixing on that track just feels ever so slightly off in comparison to the rest of Doom's catalog. You know, this album lyrically and pacing-wise bleeds together incredibly well and feels like it tells the story of a villain's one last hurrah standoff with the police, and it really lays into that aspect in some ways pretty heavily. It just is also one of the more inconsistent pieces of Doom's golden era. It's still a great piece of Doom's discography, and while I don't like it as much as others, I'm sure there's a lot of people who put Born Like This up to a high caliber. And while I think this album builds up to a good climax, I do feel like it kind of falters in its back half while trying to do something that Doom's done better on other projects. This album kind of sees itself coasting into the horizons in ways that I wish, personally, that it didn't. It's still a great record. There's a huge chasm between this and Super What as far as how much I like it, but it sits in this point in the discography because similarly to the stuff that I've talked about it, there's just some tracks that I usually end up skipping whenever I respin this record, which also doesn't happen as often as anything else in Doom's collective discography that I have above it.
Need to get out more, or either get out of here like some dang outlaw, standing like lurch. No herb in the record bin, called before a ran.
Take Me to Your Leader. The second outing from Doom sees him already planting seeds as to creating this persona, this energy that transcends one moniker. What is essentially a payoff to some planting moments done in Operation Doomsday with the mention of this project and a couple of tracks. King Ghidra is a sort of further fleshing out of the idea of the personification of Doom. You know, it does this sort of great embodiment of not only like kaiju love, but also the character of King Ghidra in the same way that MF Doom as a character does a lot to re-personify Doctor Doom from the Marvel Comics. You know, I think that it's a really fun idea for a project that I think comes together really, really well. You know, similarly to what I'm sure he was trying to do with Neruvian Doom and creating this sort of bigger picture idea with something else. I like that there are tracks without Doom. You know, while I made that as a complaint in other projects, I feel like on Take Me to Your Leader, it feels more purposeful. You know, the other heads are taking the stance, other monsters are coming in. You know, Crazy World and Fastlane, I don't think have Doom at all on them. I know Crazy World does, and that's just a place for Gigan to shine with some really good flows. When Doom does come in on here, outside of the production, because the production is all, you know, Doom cuts from various Herbs projects, and I feel like they're utilized really, really well. I think this is like grade A Doom production. That's another thing that sets this above a lot of stuff in this lane. You know, I feel like this project, by and large, sounds mysterious. It's coated in this lo-fi sheen that I think is to its credit. You know, I feel like it feels like it's ripped from the universe it's trying to represent. You know, the sample choices of talking about Kaiju and Godzilla is an excellent choice. You know, similarly to the choices made on Operation Doomsday prior to this, I feel like it further shows Doom's talents as a world builder, as a storyteller, while also showcasing the same bar crafting shown on Operation Doomsday. Doom shines on this project, and a lot of the features, by and large, are all people that he not only had on Doomsday, but also gave love to during that project, and they get to shine on here. I think Antimatter's imagery is incredible. Mr. Fantastic fits that track like a fucking glove, and I love the groove on that instrumental. While brief in its length, the final hour shows Doom shining lyrically as well. And the skits like Take Me to Your Leader and Monster Zero do a good job at, again, showcasing the scope of a record like this fantastically. It takes everything that I like about Doom from an album construction perspective and gives it a very concentrated dose. You know, I think the only things that set it below the records I'm putting above it are purely the songs. There's a lot of really good songs on here, and I feel like this is still an essential piece of Doom's discography. But if we're talking about, like, the cream of the crop, it's just shy of that. It's got some cool sample choices instrumentally on top of having dope instrumentals. It's got a cool concept, or it's got a cool idea it's wanting to spin, and it spins it really good. If you like the stuff that, you know, has the classics and you want more, I would definitely get to this project, because I think that it's really, really good.
How they gave his own show to Tad Ghostal. Any given second he could go mad postal. Stay waving that power band space can.
Now this was without a doubt my intro to Doom. I'm an Adult Swim guy. You guys know I came up with that era of television, and Doom was a big part of that era of television by and large. And I feel like this was a match made in heaven. Not only the marriage of Doom and Adult Swim's ideas, but using Danger Mouse's production style over that creates this just harmony of excellence that I would argue is the first truly, truly holistically great project I've talked about thus far in this video. I think that the references to various parts of Adult Swim's catalog, like Aqua Teen Hunger Force on ATHF, or Sofa King, having characters like Brack and Zorak and Space Ghost crop up throughout the track listing as well is fantastic. I love Space Hose. I think that it's an incredible tune. I think that the artist collaborations on here as well work incredibly well. Ghostface on The Mask, Talib Kweli on Old School Rules, just excellence all around. I feel like this is a good presentation of Doom as an artist in a way that doesn't feel as abstract as some of the other pockets of his discography, while retaining some of that looseness that fans come to him for on repeated listens. I enjoy this project a hell of a lot, and I'm glad it was my gateway. It's not something I would necessarily give to somebody as a gateway into Doom's catalog, unless you are a fan of that era of Adult Swim, because I feel like not only does it a great homogenization of Doom's persona with Adult Swim, with Danger Mouse's production, but it's a good entry point into the persona of Doom for fans of that stuff. If you like hip-hop and you watched Adult Swim back in the day and you didn't necessarily listen to this when it came out, I would listen to The Mask and the Mouse. I think that it's a really good collaboration that comes together wholeheartedly in a way that I think is awesome. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but there's some really good bars embedded to the goofiness that this album is throttling at its core.
It's Victor the Slickster. I pick her, sip slit small liquor. Still up in the mixture like a fixture.
Vaudeville Villain, the other tangential idea from the MF Doom persona canon with Victor Vaughn. A much smoother record by and large. The production on here has this minimal touch, or it has this sort of ambient feel that's removed from some of the cartoon sampling done on the records that had come before this. This album is a lot more subdued. It's a lot more visceral as well. The bar spinning on here is in-fucking-sane. And I like that not only does MF Doom seemingly boast up his villainous side like he does on a record like Born Like This, just a little more consistently here with tracks like the title track and showcasing his prominence with Lick Upon. You know, A Dead Mouse also goes. The open mic night tracks are fantastic. I also like that he spins his persona and shows the weaknesses of the character in some ways. You know, the breakdown on Can I Watch really sees Doom being cast down in a way that is different than the persona he's been boasting of. You know, I feel like Pop Snot's darkness hits a stride that he tries to tap onto on Born Like This as well. It's interesting. This record gives me the same energy that Born Like This does. I just feel like it's done so much better. And I don't feel like enough people talk about Vaudeville Villain, at least in the circles that I follow, in hip-hop following. You know, I think that it's really a great record in his discography, and I feel like you want like a buffer before getting into bolder, cartoonish ideas on full display. Listen to Victor Vaughn. It's still got it in doses. You know, there's still a lot of samples woven throughout this, but it's done in such a different way, and I feel like it is a much more accessible version of what Doom does well, and I feel like if you like abstract hip-hop or you like alternative hip-hop and you've kind of stayed away from MF Doom, listen to Vaudeville Villain. It wasn't my entry point, but I could see it being someone's entry point into the world of Dumile and his artistry. And I think that it's an incredible record. It's one that I wish I had gotten for the backdrop. I had seen it a couple times in the wild, and I didn't get the chance to snag it, and it's like high on my bucket list to grab. I think that this record is a gem. I think that it is fantastic. I think the production is a good balance of the lo-fi edge scene on Doomsday with some of the cleaner horizons that he would approach on certain projects like Born Like This. Again, it feels like the archetype for that record, but done just a bit better in my opinion.
Chop that ass in half like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Greatest of all time. God straight up told me. Greatest of all.
There is some Twilight nostalgia that this album evokes in me that I just cannot describe. I don't know, something about the production style of this record just brings me back in a way that feels odd. Because, like, yeah, I did watch Adult Swim as a kid, and so I know I've heard Doom instrumentals growing up, but, like, the way that this record sounds, it's like the sounds of hip-hop that I know I'd heard growing up with the sounds that I would grow to love the older that I'd gotten, coming together into this, like, perfect marriage. I love the way that Operation Doomsday sounds. It sounds like very much a Growing Pains project in some ways. I know that the idea of MF Doom, especially in 1999, just sounds a bit wild, and to me, honestly, I feel like it's insane that this record came out in 1999, because, yeah, the production has glimpses of that, with tracks like Rhymes Like Dimes, or the sounds on Operation Greenbacks, and tracks like The Finest kind of embody that same old school feeling that this record has. But the overall lyrical texturing of this, outside of the autobiographical side, you know, the weaving of cartoon samples in with this, feels kind of ahead of its time in my opinion. I think that this album is fantastic. You know, I love the Beatles sample on TikTok. I think that track is incredible. Doom and Grim just trade some really good bars. I love the I love the fluctuating, pace of that track. It feels like you're in a clock itself that's sort of winding down. Doomsday, the title track, is incredible. I think that the autobiographical twist that song has really does a good job at introducing Doom into the music world. I enjoy the teases at stuff like King Ghidra on Who You Think I Am. I love the Scooby-Doo sample on Hey. I think that Gas Draws' sample work is incredible as well. The beat on that song is fucking top notch. I love this project a lot. I think that it is a great entry point into Doom. If you want, again, similarly to Victor Vaughn, if you like hip hop and you're a little more open to cool, different types of concepts for hip hop, if you like alternative hip hop, throw on Operation Doomsday if you never have. It's a classic in my opinion. It is one of the best hip hop records of the 90s. I think that, again, just an incredible introduction to this artist and his scope. Even though it gets teased in glimpses, I think that it's awesome that it has this foundation to be built upon from.
Everybody wanna rule the world with tears for fear. Yeah, tell it on the mountain hill. Running up their mouth bill. Everybody down.
This was I guess it was the second record by Doom that I'd ever heard, and it blew me the fuck away because I wasn't prepared for such great allegorical writing, such great production, this really fun sample weaving on here that not only does the Doom shtick, but has this like intermission with this guy talking to these people about gumbo, and a lot of, again, just great bars in full effect. The production style of this, similarly to Operation Doomsday, is incredible. As an adult, as a guy who's spun this record all throughout his 20s, I do have nostalgia for the sounds in this record, but not in the same way with Operation Doomsday. I think that this project is incredible, though. Obviously, this is one of those records, similarly to Doomsday, I should get that out of the way, regarded as classics across the board. Anyone who knows MF Doom really likes these records, and me gushing about them is no different than a lot of people on the internet. But these records really are that good, guys. I mean, Food does beef rap, talking about beef and hip-hop a little on the nose, but like flips that into hoe cakes, because the hoe cakes, little snack cakes, and talking about picking up ladies. One Beer, you guys already know, one of my favorite hip-hop instrumentals, one of my favorite samples in hip-hop of all time. I've done homages to this record. I love the Con Carne, Con Queso double up. I think that Rap Snitches with Mr. Fantastic is also an iconic rap song. Vomit Spit goes hard. Cookies, again, another fun play on what cookies are in various different ways, I think is excellently done and is a great closer to this project. This album is incredible. Deep Fried Friends, the sample on that, iconic, and I think that is a really good deconstruction of fake friendships, fair weather friends. Given this came out during Doom's prolific era, there was just a lot going on, so it's interesting to see him give you a peek behind the curtains here and there. I think his album is awesome. I think it's a really good project. Again, it's one of my favorite hip-hop albums of all time. I think that Food is impeccable. Chef's Kiss, amazing.
Somewhat of a travesty having me. Then he told the people, you can call me your majesty. Keep your battery charged. You know it won't.
But if Doom and Madlib had never come together and made Mad Villainy, who knows what hip-hop would have been like. Similarly to Operation Doomsday, this gives me that Twilight nostalgia because of the sounds on here. But also, again, if I spun Food a lot in my 20s, of course I spun Mad Villainy a lot in my 20s. This album is essential hip-hop listening. Again, high up on my priority list. Why I don't have it, I don't know. But it's a classic hip-hop project. But again, you all know that. If you had any knowledge of MF Doom, you know that Mad Villainy is a fucking classic. It's one of the best hip-hop records of all time, one of the best produced hip-hop records of all time. I think that this album sounds awesome. I think every cook in the kitchen that comes in here, incredible. Quasimodo, M.E.D., Wild Child. I like that he gives you a little taste of that Victor Vaughn sauce. I like this record a lot. I think that it's incredible. I think that the melding of, similarly to aspects of Food and Operation Doomsday, gives you these brief little interludes, buffers amongst it all, and I like that in the case of this especially, there's just really dope hip-hop instrumentals on this. It's a melding of, like, Doom's world building with beat tape culture in the best way possible. Doom's bars on here are iconic as well. You know, Accordion alone is like one of the most revered and deconstructed rap songs of all time. You know, he pulls allegories that he had done name drops on pockets of Food and Operation Doomsday and brought him a little more into light in here. His flow is insane. You know, Meat Grinder, Raid, Figaro, all just insane rhymes. His word spinning on here is incredible. Again, one of the most important records in hip-hop in the 2000s, / in my opinion ever. I love Mad Villainy. That's not really much of a surprise. I'm a rap fan and I like Mad Villainy. That's like saying the sky is blue on a sunny day. Thanks for watching. If you like this MF Doom Discography review, be sure to give it a like. If you want to see more on my music, gaming, and general notary content, be sure to subscribe. Special thanks to my patrons. If you want to join their ranks to get early access content, exclusive content, or to help drive the community, it's linked in the description. I'm going to go, though. Thank you again so very much for watching. I've been Viral Rack. You guys have good days, lives, and situations, and I'll see you another day.